Let's dive right into this explainer and unpack the massive ripple effects of the absolutely chaotic 2026 MLB trade deadline. We're looking at a deadline that didn't just reshape rosters on the field, it literally upended the sports betting landscape off of it, leaving Vegas executives completely sweating through their suits. This isn't just your standard story about player swaps. It's a fascinating look at how one single team's aggression can send an entire league into an absolute panic and shatter the financial models of the biggest sportsbooks in the world. To really grasp the sheer unpredictability of this season, just consider this mind-bending data point. A $100 preseason flyer on the Chicago White Sox to win it all? Yeah, it now stands to profit a staggering $30,000. I mean, they opened the season at 300-to-1 odds, essentially a total afterthought, and now they're sitting right atop the AL Central. This massive underdog surge created a huge, totally unexpected liability for sportsbooks and set the stage for a desperately wild August trade deadline. Suddenly, teams that thought they were out of it realized they had a real shot, and the buyer's market became a complete traffic jam.
All right, Section 1, the Skee-Ball Earthquake. The Los Angeles Dodgers land the ultimate ace.
The real earthquake of the deadline hit when LA secured the absolute ultimate prize on the market, Detroit Tigers ace Tarek Skee-Ball. Just look at the immediate financial impact here. One savvy bettor dropped 10 grand in the Dodgers at plus 175 right before the deal leaked. Once that trade was finalized on a Saturday night, those odds immediately shortened to plus 150. In the betting world, an instant shift like that is monumental. The market reacted instantly, basically recognizing that adding the best left-handed pitcher available made an already great team look, well, pretty much untouchable.
And this quote right here brilliantly illustrates the oddsmaker's absolute nightmare. Caesars head of baseball trading, Eric Biggio, points out that Vegas is actively sweating a third straight Dodgers championship. Why? Let's break it down. Bettors have been aggressively tying the Dodgers into long-term futures parlays all year. Basically, they're combining multiple season-long bets into one massive payout, with LA as the anchor. If the Dodgers win, sportsbooks owe an absolute fortune. This immense concentration of talent in Los Angeles effectively forced the rest of the league into a frantic arms race just to keep pace.
Moving on to Section 2, the AL arms race. Contenders scramble to keep pace.
Let's see exactly how the American League responded to the Dodgers throwing down the gauntlet. The Houston Astros grabbed elite defensive center fielder Dalton Varsho from Toronto, giving up starters Spencer Arrighetti in return. Honestly, this is a perfect win-now move. It beautifully balances Houston's immediate need for outfield help without sacrificing their core identity as a premier defensive unit. For the Blue Jays, who are kind of punting on this season, it's a patient, long play. They land a fantastic breaking ball pitcher who his team controlled all the way through 2029, letting them pair him with their young core for years to come.
Meanwhile, the New York Yankees found themselves in full-blown panic mode. Desperate for right-handed power with Aaron Judge's status up in the air due to injury, they targeted guys who just hit the absolute snot out of the baseball. They went out and acquired Heliot Ramos, an all-star from San Francisco, and Luis Garcia Jr., who was literally leading the National League in slugging percentage. It's a pure, high-impact power play, totally designed to overwhelm opponents with offense and keep their World Series hopes alive through all the chaos.
But the biggest AL shocker? That came from the Boston Red Sox. Capitalizing on a ridiculous 20-2 summer run, they snatched three-time All-Star catcher Adley Rutschman from the Orioles. To get him, though, they had to surrender top prospect Marcelo Meyer. Guys, this is what pushing all your chips to the center of the table looks like. They grabbed the exact premium backstop the Yankees wanted, massively upgraded their lineup for a deep playoff run, and explicitly told their fan base, hey, the time to win is right now. And you know, it wasn't just the heavyweights throwing punches. Fringe contenders scrambled to add complementary pieces just to stay alive in a brutally tight wildcard hunt. Take Seattle, for example. They brought in Taylor Ward and Seranthony Dominguez, desperately trying to balance out their lineup and bullpen. Cleveland, on the other hand, grabbed Jody Adele, hoping a change of scenery finally unlocks his immense raw power. It's just a pure scramble for survival out there. With the powerhouse teams consolidating top talent, these fringe teams are just hunting for whatever edge they can find.
Let's look at Section 3, NL Contenders Strike Back, rebuilding the rosters for October. Over in the National League, teams had to figure out how to counter that terrifying Dodgers super rotation we talked about. The Chicago Cubs, they decided to take a sheer volume approach. They completely overhauled their pitching staff in one fell swoop, landing Kevin Gausman, Clay Holmes, and Braxton Garrett. By bringing in this small army of proven arms, they're basically betting that having multiple, flexible starter and bullpen options is the absolute best way to weather the inevitable injuries and survive the gauntlet of a deep October run. Now, the Phillies went a completely different route with a wild, almost chaotic defensive shuffle. They traded for contact machine Luis Arraez to balance out a really strikeout-heavy lineup, alongside relievers Caleb Killian and Brooks Raley. But the boldest part of this move is the domino effect it creates on the field. It effectively forces their superstar Bryce Harper out to the outfield just to make the puzzle pieces fit. It's essentially high-stakes musical chairs in Philly, gambling defensive stability for what they hope is an unstoppable offensive machine. And flying a bit under the radar, the San Diego Padres pulled off a brilliant depth move. They fortified an already lethal pitching staff by adding starters Casey Mize and Robbie Ray. When you pair those starting arms with a bullpen that is already terrifying, the Padres have effectively shortened the game. Think about it. If they get a lead by the 6th inning, it's pretty much game over. If they manage to secure a wild card spot, nobody, and I mean nobody, is going to want to face that pitching factory in a short series.
So, Section 4, the new Vegas landscape. Let's see who the house is actually rooting for.
How did all these aggressive franchise-altering trades fundamentally shift the betting markets? While looking at the updated payout odds from Caesars, the Dodgers are heavy plus 150 favorites. In a sport with as much random variance as baseball, being a plus 150 favorite against the entire field is totally absurd. They're literally in a league of their own. The Yankees follow way back at plus 600, with the Milwaukee Brewers sitting right behind them at plus 900. The gap between the Dodgers and everyone else right now is just historically wide.
But here is the fascinating dynamic playing out behind the betting counters. Because of those massive financial liabilities on the Dodgers, plus thousands of small underdog bets piling up on surprise teams like the White Sox, Pirates, and Cardinals, Vegas is in a serious bind. So they are actively rooting for what they bluntly call a boring World Series. They desperately want a fundamentally sound matchup between the small market Brewers and Rays. Why? Because a small market clash with minimal casual betting action is exactly the matchup that saves their bottom line from a catastrophic payout. And you know what? Vegas might just get their wish, because both the Rays and Brewers executed absolute masterclasses in strategic upgrading. The Rays added former Cy Young contender Freddie Peralta, clearly trusting their famous pitching lab to fix his mechanics. The Brewers quietly added high-upside arms like Dustin May and JoJo Romero. And the real kicker here, they both managed to do this without gutting their top-tier farm systems. While everyone else panicked and gave up their futures, these two front offices played the long game, setting themselves up for both this October and the next 5 years. Which brings us to a final thought for you to chew on as October approaches. Will the massive prospect capital surrendered by contenders like the Red Sox giving up a phenom like Marcelo Meyer actually guarantee a ring? Or will the patient teams who protected their farm systems have the last laugh? It's a massive clash of philosophies, and Vegas is holding its collective breath. What do you think? Does buying the best roster win the trophy, or does the house always win? Thanks for joining this explainer. We'll see you next time.